My friends, I welcome you. I'm Dennis Prager. It is a joy to be with you. I will be in Denver this evening for a cigar event. It's now the go-to thing for me for many of my stations, cigar events, which I find fascinating and, needless to say, highly enjoyable. The ability to smoke while talking. Oh, God. A troubled world, and I'm blessed to be able to do a great deal and enjoy myself. But I have been enjoying myself since the beginning. I have been since the beginning of the lockdown because I have disregarded every one of the rules that these fools have mandated. Here's an example of the fools mandating. Just in, literally, I got this a minute ago. This is from Reuters, not known for being a conservative source of news. Melbourne cases hit record despite 2 months of lockdown. The Australians have really gone down, in my opinion. I've been to Australia many times. I've loved the Australians. And like the Minnesotans, a lot of nice people, but apparently a lot of nice people who are quite okay with the government ruling their lives. See, life is complex. It doesn't take bad people for bad to get done. How's that? That's one of the most important lessons of my life. It does not take bad people for evil to prevail. Massive numbers of nice people help the evil. Okay? Everyone who votes left, not liberal. I have no problem with people voting liberal. I think they're wrong, but I have no problem morally. It is immoral to vote for the left, which means at this time the Democratic Party, which is ruining this country by the day. But I will get back to that in a moment. So Melbourne, interesting. 2 months of lockdown after it's really been a year of lockdown. Melbourne's COVID-19 cases surged to record levels on Thursday. That's today, because it's already tomorrow in Melbourne. With officials blaming illegal home gatherings to watch key sporting events. There you go. There you go. So what does that mean for the officials? Indefinite non-gathering with family or friends? Indefinitely? Until when exactly? Till there are no cases? But then there will be cases when they get back together. Officials in the West are almost to a person power-hungry, arrogant fools. I said this from the beginning, that the lockdown was the greatest worldwide mistake in history. I have been proven so right, and it's not an ego thing. However, it should give me credibility in your eyes, rather than Fauci, rather than Biden, rather than the West in general, certainly the English-speaking countries. I'm supposed to speak in Canada on Saturday night. But no, I can't. Canada won't let me in because I'm not vaccinated. Even if I had the COVID, they wouldn't let me in, even though it would be the first time in history it is better to have a vaccine than to have had the virus. Well, there's a picture of Trudeau up there with a mask on. He's saving lives. Saving lives. Let me continue with this piece. They blamed the gatherings illegal. Illegal? First of all, that whole sentence needs to be parsed. Illegal home gatherings. In the Soviet Union, there weren't illegal home gatherings. You couldn't gather with a Westerner in your home, but you could gather with another Soviet citizen in your home. They noted who was there. What's up? Yeah. I'm sorry? The piece is up. My piece? No, this piece is up? Okay, good. The piece I'm citing right now is up at DennisPrager.com. I got the up signal and I didn't know what it might be. So everything about this sentence is so revealing. Authorities in Victoria, home to Melbourne, estimated nearly a third of Thursday's 1,438 new infections could be traced back to home parties last weekend to watch the Australian rules football grand final on television. I wonder how they did it. The police stopped cars and asked them, "What are you doing on the road?" I guess these people evaded the police to watch football, Aussie rule football. I love it. It's my favorite football. Aussie rules. Wow. Many of these cases were completely avoidable. I'm not trying to blame anyone. What does that mean? Do you realize everything about this is dishonest? He's not. It's avoidable. You
lockdown breakers.
You lockdown breakers. Thank you. But I'm not blaming you. I'm simply trying to explain, because a lot of people will be scratching their heads. How could it have gone up by so much so fast? State Premier Daniel Andrews said during a media briefing. How did he How did he brief the media? I guess by Zoom. Officials admitted Thursday's number, a 50% jump to Wednesday's 950 cases, is, quote, a major setback in managing the flare-up as they race to vaccinate the state's 5.5 million adult population. Half of the state's population above 16 have received their first dose. That's all? They're so crazed, and that's all that have received it? As officials halved the intervals between Pfizer shots in state-run vaccine hubs to 3 weeks after supplies rose. Well, as I scroll down, I am passing an ad for a Swiss fingernail clipper. Should I read that?
Tempting.
I actually bought it. I actually bought the other one. They make two. You are sitting, my dear producer, with the biggest sucker for, clickbait in America. The amount of time I spend on clickbait, how do they look now? The hilarity is, I don't even know who half of them are. That's the joke. How does so-and-so, whom I never heard of in my life, look now? I didn't know how he or she looked then. And I'm still going page to page. See, there, nobody, you what? Yeah, okay, good. Well, I'm going to play that in a moment. There's something about me that you, my listeners, would not have expected. So, as one caller put it, Dennis, you are transparent, which is true. Yes, that's a very fair question. How many clicks do I do before I give up? The first one that they show is the one you're interested in. But after 30, if it hasn't shown up, I frustratedly give up. So I see so here is the answer now. Mr. Producer, I have an answer. In Australia, they will only apparently allow people to leave their homes, except for emergencies and food, when every single one is vaccinated. Yes. Which will take, if they've only at 50% now, it's endless.
I think it's 0 COVID cases. That's what they want.
They want 0 COVID cases?
Yeah,
but if there's, so I see. So, but there's no way to know that there are 0 COVID cases. There's no way to know that. You'd have to test every single inhabitant every week. There's no possible way to know if there's 0 COVID cases. There are asymptomatic carriers. There are people who've been vaccinated who carry it. I don't think it's zero. I don't know how they. I think it's every single person is vaccinated. 1-8-PRAGER 776-877-243 776. On what? When they'll stop
Salem
it?
Now.
The public would be outraged if they knew the truth.
Why do you think our politicians are not on the sidewalk right now talking to you?
Don't have no respect.
The old wall randomly turns into a guardrail, followed by miles of open border.
Human trafficking.
That journey is extremely dangerous.
The 7-year-old girl died in the desert
from the country of India.
A great pillar of the community was killed by a man who had been deported at least twice.
This little urn contains the ashes of my son. His dreams cut short forever.
We're so worried about other countries' problems, and we don't even focus on our own.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
There's about 57 Muslim states in the world. There's one Jewish state.
The massive ingathering of Jews in the last 150 years back to the land is absolutely unprecedented.
They say that there's no greater sign of redemption coming than the Jewish people returning to the hills of Judea.
As a Christian, I've always supported Israel's claim to the Holy Land. To me, the Palestinians were just getting in the way of God's plan.
300,000 Palestinians are unemployed.
In spite of all the years of conflict, there's hope here, if you know where to look for it.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
But Biden is taking a hit, and Democrats are trying to stay clear from him. The caller in the last hour said, "Where's Kamala?" Kamala is doing her best to stay clear of Joe Biden. I mean, her polls stink, but combined, the both of them combined, I guess it's extra stinky together because both of them stink. And the funny thing is, her polls are worse than his, and she wants to be nowhere near this cat. But people are finding out that this Build Back Better thing is a socialist agenda, and the $3.5 trillion partisan wish list that the Democrats are wanting is starting to turn people off because people are starting to realize that the economic pain is going to be felt at home. Average, everyday Americans sitting around their dinner table are going to feel that pain. Overall, the poll found that Biden's net approval average is -7. That means 44% are approving of his job as the president, and 51% disapprove. So this is a major slide. A generic Republican on the ballot at this time would lead in all 7 districts, going up against the Democrat incumbents by 6 percentage points on average. So, Carl, the elections are so far away. Why are you worried about this, or why are you talking about this now? Polls don't matter. Polls do matter to Democrats. Unfortunately, I feel like Republicans are starting to do the same. Republicans have an opportunity of a lifetime, in my opinion, to kick Biden while he's down, and you have Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy seems to have backtracked slightly, but Mitch McConnell talking about they don't want to impeach. Why not? Why not?
Keep up with what's trending.
Hey, I can't wait for you to hear the governor, the gubernatorial governor of New York. I could spend the entire show giving you an exegesis. I love that word. Here's a question for you. How many talk show hosts in America this year will have used the word exegesis? Well, Sean answered that with the speed of light. 1. I'm not claiming it's impressive. Just, I acknowledge it's rare. Okay, let's hear the governor of New York State, Governor Hochul.
I prayed a lot to God during this time. And you know what? God did answer our prayers. He made the smartest men and women, the scientists, the doctors, the researchers. He made them come up with a vaccine. That is from God to us. And we must say, thank you, God. Thank you. And I wear my vaccinated necklace all the time to say, I'm vaccinated. All of you. Yes, I know you're vaccinated. You're the smart ones. But you know there's people out there who aren't listening to God and what God wants. You know
okay,
this.
Hold on a sec.
You know.
That's precious. Imagine if our side ever said that. If you don't agree with the right, you're not listening to God. Do you realize?
You're the smart ones, but you know there's people out there who aren't listening to God and what God wants.
Right. So imagine, it's always important to put the shoe on the other foot. And imagine that. We would be called religious fanatics, Taliban-type Americans, Bible thumpers. Thank you. That's right. Bible thumper. Hey, is thumper ever used outside of Bible? I never heard somebody say, so what did you do yesterday? I thumped. Let's thump this weekend. You can never hear it. Isn't that interesting? There's just Bible thumpers. I'm a Bible thumper. I don't even know what thumper means, but I am one. So is she. How's that? You're not listening to God if you don't get a vaccine. So I'm curious, would she apply that to masks on 2-year-olds? Our smartest are telling us to mask 2-year-olds. Is that smart, Governor Hochul? Is that listening to God too? I think if you listen to God, you don't put a mask on a 2-year-old. Or a 3-year-old, or a 4-year-old, or a 5-year-old, or a 6-year-old, or a 7-year-old, or an 8-year-old, or a 9-year-old, or a 10-year-old. I think if you're listening to God, you would have sent your kid to school last year. But teachers were cowards and leftists. Bad combination, and they're usually synonymous. Continue, Sean.
You know who they are. I need you to be my apostles. I need you to go out and talk about it and say, we owe this to each other. We love each other. Jesus taught us to love one another.
So tell me something, Governor Hochul. Was banning people from visiting their dying parents for a year loving as Jesus wanted it? You fake. Oh, man, I love when the left quote the Bible. I love it because I know the Bible better than 99% of them, and they get it all wrong. That was loving? Let your parent die alone? Supposedly masks work. Why couldn't you visit your parent? Or, God forbid, your child. Or a friend. Friends are pretty precious. When the left talks about loving other people, I puke. It's a hate-filled world on the left. But the devil can quote scripture. There are people who defended slavery using the Bible. Right? Anybody can use it. Let's go on.
And how do you show that love? But to care about each other enough to say, please get vaccinated because I love you. I want you to live. I want our kids to be safe when they're in schools.
And have kids get vaccinated when the chances of their dying of COVID are in the realm of being killed in a car crash. But they should get the vaccine too, though we have no idea It's not anybody's fault. We have no idea what the long-term effects of vaccines are, especially on girls and their fertility. We have no idea whatsoever. Is that correct, Governor Hochul? Do you know what will be in 5 years for kids getting vaccinated? Can you tell me why they should get vaccinated? Should, must? Go on, please.
When they're in schools, I want you to be safe when you go to a doctor's office or to a hospital and are treated by somebody. You don't want to get the virus from them.
Right. People are getting virus from nurses. There you go. What's your evidence of that? But she knows better than all these nurses who don't want to get vaccinated. She knows much better what the vaccine entails. What do they know? They're just nurses. Right? And they don't listen to God. Governor Hochul and the left do. Go on, it gets worse.
You're already sick or you wouldn't be there.
Yeah.
We have to solve this, my friends. I need every one of you. I need you to let them know that this is how we can fight this pandemic, come back to normal, and then start talking about the real issues that we have to. Fighting systemic racial injustice, which exists today, and if there's a denier, I will take you on any day because I've seen it.
Okay,
I know it exists.
Good. Keep that. If there's a denier, I will take you on. How much money would you like us to give to any fund you want for you to debate Larry Elder on systemic racism in America? You're a phony. She wouldn't take anybody on. No leftist debates these issues. They only smear. It's a total lie what this governor just said. I'll take any denier on. I deny that there's systemic racism in America. Okay, you want to take me on?
And if there's a denier, I will take you on any day because I've seen it. I know it exists.
Right. She has seen it. Anyone who's on the left has seen it. That is true. Because the only systemic racism in this country is on the left. Change standards for blacks is as racist as it gets. We on the left believe blacks are inferior. I swear to the holy God, I believe leftists think blacks are inferior. The left believes in segregation, black dormitories, black graduations. The Ku Klux Klan and the left are the only Americans who believe in black dormitories. Okay? Black only is Jim Crow and the left. Or, to put it in shorthand, Democrats. The Democratic Party has been scummy from its founding to this day. All it does is damage the country. Republicans have done a lot of damage too, but they've done a hell of a lot more good. And they were founded, by the way, to oppose slavery.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor.
Streaming on Salem Now.
We understand that a plane has crashed into...
The people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Biggest and most costly manhunt in U.S. history.
United States killed Osama bin Laden.
There are reports surfacing that Al-Qaeda has placed a $50,000 US bounty on the heads of any U.S. Navy SEALs.
Nobody's going to survive that. There's nobody in that.
This is the single largest loss of life in Afghanistan in a single incident.
Most of them are U.S. Navy SEALs.
We discovered bullets in the bodies of the Navy SEALs. The military threw them away.
More likely than not, that supports a shootout on board.
Anybody out there, we have a fallen angel.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans. At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
You ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermanos. ¿Quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor.
Our lunch consisted of whatever my mother could scrape together from the dinner the night before. We would have sandwiches with no meat.
My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO. Put in an economic growth plan called 999.
We'll all be able to say, free at last, free at last.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery. There is a whole big cottage industry for racism. If racism went away, a lot of people would be unemployed.
The mob during the Minneapolis riots following the death of George Floyd. A bunch of white thugs, frankly, burning down the city's traditional black and Asian business district.
They're racist, racist, racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
My cup runneth over. I feel that each day, and I hope, and I know you know it, so I don't even have to belabor the point. And you know what it is about? It's about many things, about family, and it is about friends, and it is about the phenomenal people my work has enabled me to meet. One of them is Brian Keating, professor of astrophysics at UC San Diego. And he has done, how many PragerU videos? 2, which is a big deal.
3. Well, 2 videos.
Wait, is it 3 or 2?
It's 2
videos. Two videos and a book club.
2 videos and a book club. But who's counting? Brian Keating's a professor.
I gotta get tenure.
I don't know if you have tenure yet at PragerU, but you're getting there. You are our favorite astrophysicist, I will say that. His new book, he has a great new book out, which I just ordered the Audible to, by the way. Who's reading it? Is it you?
I read the intro, the conclusion, but it's read by a professional.
Yeah, no, I have that
actor.
too. I have that with my book. Yeah, that's fine. His new book is Into the Impossible. Think like a Nobel Prize winner. Lessons from laureates, that is, people who've won the Nobel Prize, to stoke curiosity, spur collaboration, and ignite imagination in your life and career. By the way, I might add, Professor Brian, that is the longest title of a book that I have ever had on the show.
I get paid by the word.
So what it is?
Paid, Dennis.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I said, speaking of getting paid, the Kindle version is just 99 cents through Tuesday, the ebook version on Amazon. And I did that because nobody writes a book about Nobel Prize-winning wisdom to get rich, unlike those greedy, venal authors of biblical commentary.
Yeah, exactly, you're right. I mean, people have been known to become overnight millionaires writing commentaries on Deuteronomy. It's well known. It's the road to riches, a commentary on Leviticus. Oh, God, is that ever true? Anyway, good. So I'll get both. I already ordered the Audible. I'm going to order that for 99 cents because then I could underline and everything. Okay, so this is, you have a podcast, and this is, you edited your interviews with Nobel laureates. Is that correct?
Yes, because I think, the key question that animates you and me, I think, Dennis, is how can we make wisdom sort of more prominent than knowledge? And I realized I was interviewing all these people that won Nobel Prizes, which means they have a lot of knowledge. I think everybody will say that. But did they have any wisdom? And that was the question that I was seeking to answer with my podcast, Into the Impossible, and my YouTube channel. And I wanted to really distill the most important life lessons from these otherworldly intellects in a way that could be understood by anybody. It's not a science book. There's no equations in it. No homework problems will be assigned. But the essence of my question was, can you convert knowledge into wisdom? And if not, how can we glean as much wisdom from people that have knowledge? Because I think I've had on people I vehemently disagree with on my podcast, as I know you have as well. But the question is, can you learn? And as the Talmud says, who is wise? He who learns from every person. But the question I really wanted to prove out is whether or not that holds in the case of people in STEM, or science, technology, engineering, and math, which you often say is the main reason to go to a traditional college nowadays.
So, all right. So you've really posed the major question here, or as they used to say, the $64,000 question. Do you find a linkage between great knowledge and great wisdom?
I did, especially in these folks, because these 9 men, unfortunately, I did try to interview the 2 living female Nobel Prize winners in physics. They both rejected me, which took me back to the feelings I experienced in high school of rejection from brilliant women. But there's only 2 of them, so I'm going to keep trying. Hope springs eternal. And I did find that, Dennis, because these men in this series of interviews were incredibly vulnerable. They were telling me things that, sometimes they had never admitted to anybody. And actually, the impetus for sitting down and writing the actual book and transcripts, it's not just a dump of transcripts. It's not, just some lightly, edited fluff. It's actually very hardcore deep dives into issues of mentorship, of fatherhood, of influence.
All right, hold on there. This is really, this is unique. Brian Keating's book is up at DennisPrager.com. And in the meantime, I want to tell you about Relief Factor. Relief Factor is an amazing product. Of course, I could spend 3 hours, probably 12 hours, just reading to you how people have reacted. Here's one. I've been taking Relief Factor for about 3 months, and I'm amazed at how much my pain has decreased. In rainy weather, I would be in ridiculous pain and just wanting to crawl in bed and cry. At this writing, it has been raining all day, and I feel just fine. Before Relief Factor, I never had a day when something didn't hurt. Please try it for 3 weeks. If it doesn't work in 3 weeks, just cancel the account. $19.95 plus shipping. The 3-week Relief Factor, ReliefFactor.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
The public would be outraged if they knew the truth.
Why do you think our politicians are not on the sidewalk right now talking to you?
Don't have no respect.
The old wall randomly turns into a guardrail, followed by miles of open border.
human trafficking bar.
That journey is extremely dangerous.
The 7-year-old girl died in the desert.
From the country of India.
A great pillar of the community was killed by a man who had been deported at least twice.
This little urn contains the ashes of my son. His dreams cut short forever.
We're so worried about other countries' problems, and we don't even focus on our own.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
There's about 57 Muslim states in the world. There's one Jewish state.
The massive ingathering of Jews in the last 150 years back to the land is absolutely unprecedented.
They say that there's no greater sign of redemption coming than the Jewish people returning to the hills of Judea.
As a Christian, I've always supported Israel's claim to the Holy Land. To me, the Palestinians were just getting in the way of God's plan.
300,000 Palestinians are unemployed.
In spite of all the years of conflict, there's hope here, if you know where to look for it.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans. At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Let me remind you that you can download a terrific American history course. This is becoming the rage now, by the way. People studying outside of schools. Now, you can't do it with Brian Keating's area, physics or astrophysics. I understand that. But you can do it with history, the most important subject there is, in my opinion. And the Hillsdale College has the 1776 curriculum downloadable for free. And you can get it at k12.hillsdale.edu. Edu is for educational institution. K12, not K212, not K-12, K12.hillsdale.edu, the Hillsdale 1776 curriculum. K12.hillsdale.edu. Brian Keating has a book. I already ordered the Audible, and I'm going to get the. I'm going to have it in every edition there is except Braille. And the book is Into the Impossible, Think Like a Nobel Prize Winner, and lessons from his interviews. And he asks the big questions, and that's the beauty. And he got them to open up. So this is fascinating reading. And Brian Keating is a thinker, and he's a professor of astrophysics at UC San Diego. How do your colleagues view you?
Well, I think some of them view me with a little bit of bemusement because, this book is really a self-help book. It's not like my first book, Losing the Nobel Prize, which is about a scientific
which I read, by the way, just for the record.
Yeah.
Yep.
You did. And you got a A- on the final exam.
No, I didn't. I got a C+. Okay, you're very sweet for saying that. Go ahead.
Great inflation is real. But in the case of this book, which is a self-help book, Think Like a Nobel Prize winner, I wanted to deconstruct the soft skills that scientific folks, such as my colleagues, often overlook because they might denigrate it slightly and say, oh, that's not what a real scientist should do. As if people like, Albert Einstein or Richard Feynman or others really neglected the soft skills. There's an old canard about scientists, Dennis. How do you know a scientist is outgoing?
Go ahead. How?
Because he looks at your shoes when he talks to you.
Oh, God. Is that an in-joke?
Well, scientists are, it is it's introverted. Scientists are not known to be the most extroverted, effusive individuals.
Yeah.
So, but these laureates, Dennis, when you ask me, they reveal that they spent as much time working on their soft skills, on their networking, on persuasion, even, dare I say, salesmanship, as they did on learning quantum mechanics, general relativity, and the mysteries of the cosmos. So I think that's a lesson that I, took from these individuals, that just because you've achieved greatness, it doesn't necessarily translate to other aspects of your life. And I often would bring up with these laureates, every 4 years we're told by 77 Nobel laureates which of the Democratic candidates we should vote for president. And the Nobel Prize carries this outsized influence on society. And I asked them, how does that make you feel? And how does winning the how does it feel when you receive this 3 a.m. phone call from the Swedish Royal Academy of Sciences? How do you react? What do you do the next day?
Right. So what's the answer? What's the general answer?
So most of them, Dennis, I was shocked to learn, suffered from an affliction that I have, which is called the imposter syndrome, a feeling of severe inadequacy, of actually not being up to the task, of being, kind of just randomly selected for this honor. And I was fascinated because I said, well, that must have gone away after you won the Nobel Prize. And almost to a man, Dennis, they all said no. Winning the Nobel Prize made their imposter syndrome worse. And I really wanted to explore that in this book. That is one of the resonant themes in this book. And I think it comes from a sense of humility. And the reason that they have it after they win the Nobel Prize is because when you win the Nobel Prize, apparently, I'll never get one. You may get one for your work in literature, but I will never get one because of my books about it so far. But when they win the Nobel Prize, Dennis, you go to Sweden, you sign a log book, and it says, so-and-so, I've received my Nobel Prize, my gold medal, my check for $1 million. And most of these men are incredibly curious, and so they take a peek back in the logbook. Who signed this before me? And they see Albert Einstein, and they see Madame Curie, and they see Richard Feynman, and they say, I am not worthy. And in fact, that's how it started. That's how the impetus began for this book. Barry Barish, who co-wrote the foreword, he won the Nobel Prize in 2017. He said, I saw Einstein, and I said, I'm not worthy. And he said, I feel the imposter syndrome even worse after winning the Nobel Prize. And so, Dennis, I told him, guess what, Barry? Einstein felt the imposter syndrome. He said, he did? I said, yeah. He was inadequate, he felt, before Isaac Newton. And before whom did Isaac Newton feel inadequate, Dennis? Jesus Christ. He said his biggest regret was, Isaac Newton's biggest regret is that he died inadequate compared to Jesus Christ, except in one way, which is that he died a virgin, which he thought was the most Christ-like he could be. So this is a common theme, Dennis. No matter what you achieve, you can never really get into the promised land. And I found that so resonant with me.
So this is truly interesting and revelatory to me. But I have noticed in life that the best are less arrogant than the mediocre.
Yes. And in fact, Dennis, what was so fascinating to me? Because there were one or two laureates who said, no, I don't have the imposter syndrome. I expected to win it. And that's a subject for another day. But, it's hard to argue with somebody who has won this, who is, hailed as the next Einstein, that, they should have more humility. But, of course, many of them do. But the thing that also kind of achieved this harmony throughout the book is that when they did feel that they deserved it or something like that, it wasn't from a sense of arrogance, because arrogance.
No, exactly. I understand.
Comes from insecurity.
Exactly. They know their work. All right, listen, we got to do a part 2 in this. Brian Keating is a special man, a special thinker. The book, I think, having heard this, is self-recommending to all of you. It's titled Into the Impossible, Think Like a Nobel Prize Winner, and it is up at DennisPrager.com, among other places. All right. Good man. I'm honored to have him in my life. We'll be back in a moment.
This is why we're fighting for the soul of America.
You should be able to share ideas without fear of being fired from your job or shouted down.
You are not to be heard. This is one of the few things we have no precedent for in the United States.
You have the right to remain silent.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Don't you get tired of commercials screaming at you to buy gold now with inflated promises on future values? In an unregulated industry, you need honest, real experts to give you solid advice to protect your wealth and top picks on the best coins and bullion based on real-time data and historical trends. For example, as environmental policy becomes a hot topic, one precious metal that's been significantly undervalued for years is potentially set to surge. Nick Rovich, owner of AmFed Coin and Bullion, has long recommended this precious metal. Up to 600,000 ounces of this rare metal will be needed by 2030 to produce green hydrogen. Nick is doubling down on this pick, and you should too. Call Nick at AmFed Coin and Bullion to find out more. I've been friends with Nick for years, and he's my go-to guy when it comes to coins and bullion. I trust him. He is a good and very knowledgeable man. Call Nick at 800-221-7694, 800-221-7694, AmericanFederal.com, AmericanFederal.com. Not one mistake.
Trending now on the Mike Gallagher Show.
Any teacher who's taping masks to 9-year-olds' heads should be fired immediately. I mean, that's not I'm not going out on a limb here to say that. Do you disagree with that? Now, the lunatics who are so mask and vaccine crazed, who are freaking out about 100,000 people in a college football stadium, I'll bet they think that's okay. Well, the 9-year-old doesn't have his mask on, you got to tape it to his head. Now tape the mask around it so it stays over his mouth and his nose. Not only should the teacher lose her job, she should be arrested. That's assault.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Okay, all Joe in Boulder, Colorado. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Wait, is the mic working?
Say it again.
Can you hear me?
I can, very clearly.
Okay, cool. So this was a while ago, but earlier you were talking about how people can't leave their house in Australia without a vaccine, and how this is because
no, they can't even leave with vaccine. They just can't leave.
And how, well, and you were saying that this is how to, this is to get zero COVID cases, but your logic on why that was absurd was because it's impossible to tell because there's asymptomatic people. But, like, do you agree with me, Dennis, that polio is it like extinct virus in the U.S., right? There's no cases.
Right. Correct.
Most cases of polio are asymptomatic.
Right.
But how can you? But by your logic, then how can you tell there are no cases?
Because we haven't had a case in decades. I don't know
Okay,
if we did not know. Wait, we did not know there were no cases within a year of the polio vaccine.
Yes, but your logic was that it's literally impossible to do that. That's
yes,
not wrong.
It's literally impossible to do that at this time. 10 years from now, we'll know that there are no COVID cases. But within 1 year or 1 year and a half of COVID blossoming,
if no one comes in and tests positive because people go to the
everybody
doctor when
isn't
they're
being
sick.
tested.
Yeah, not everyone's being tested. Some cases will slip through the cracks. What they want is zero, like, actually reported cases. Like, if no one is coming to the doctor in scale, like, I don't know, the hundreds of thousands of people that currently are,
right.
And
So
testing
I don't know.
positive for
I don't know
COVID.
what you. I'm happy you called. I don't know what you're differing with me about. You acknowledge that there are asymptomatic
I'm saying
people.
you're
They
saying
won't go
there's
for
no
a
point
doctor.
to it. You're saying that there's no point to it because you can't
I
tell,
didn't.
and I'm saying
yes,
there
there's
is.
no point to it because the price being paid by society is much greater than the price that the society would pay if they acted normally, like in Sweden, where you had people who were very vulnerable, quarantined, but not the society. They had school the entire year last year for kids under 16. They went to class. The way Australia's handled it is borders on evil and certainly is stupid. But I that's a separate issue. You may agree with it or not. All I'm saying is there's no way to know that there are zero cases. Thank you for calling. We return.
Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
Jen Psaki, the pressure is getting to her, questioned by Peter Doocy, a famous clip already, cut number 11.
But does the president have a sense that most of the criticism is not of leaving Afghanistan, it's the way that he has ordered it to happen, by pulling the troops before getting these Americans who are now stranded? Does he have a sense of that?
First of all, I think it's irresponsible to say Americans are stranded. They are not. We are committed to bringing Americans who want to come home. We are in touch with them via phone, via text, via email, via any way that we can possibly reach Americans to...
Jake Tapper thinks they're stranded on CNN, cut number 4.
Look, I understand that people are working long hours in the White House, the National Security Council, State Department, Pentagon, and over in Kabul to get Americans out of that country. And I understand the White House wanting to reassure the nation that all Americans will ultimately be evacuated. But there are no doubt Americans who feel stranded in Afghanistan right now.
Of course there are. It's absurd for the White House, and it tells you something about Joe Biden. Britt Hume was on with our friend Guy Benson on his radio show yesterday, said this, cut number 1.
But anybody who ever heard him speak for any length of time could tell this guy, this was not the sharpest knife in the drawer. And, he could talk forever and was famous for it. But you never had the sense that he was terribly smart. And on top of that, now he's manifestly senile. And between those two things, this is a man with very, very severe limitations who is well too old, in my opinion, to be the President of the United States.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor.
We would have sandwiches with no meat.
My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO.
We'll all be able to say, free at last, free at last.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me.
but he's not. We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Judge Thomas, you solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
I was under constant attack. You're not really black because you're not doing what we expect black people to do. This is the wrong black guy. He has to be destroyed.
So you'd still like to serve on the Supreme Court?
I'd rather die than withdraw from the process.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
The public would be outraged if they knew the truth.
Why do you think our politicians are not on the sidewalk right now talking to you?
Don't have no respect.
The old wall randomly turns into a guardrail, followed by miles of open border.
Human trafficking gone.
That journey is extremely dangerous.
The 7-year-old girl died in the desert.
From the country of India.
A great pillar of the community was killed by a man who had been deported at least twice.
This little urn contains the ashes of my son. His dreams cut short forever.
We're so worried about other countries' problems, and we don't even focus on our own.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
There's about 57 Muslim states in the world. There's one Jewish state.
The massive ingathering of Jews in the last 150 years back to the land is absolutely unprecedented.
They say that there's no greater sign of redemption coming than the Jewish people returning to the hills of Judea.
As a Christian, I've always supported Israel's claim to the Holy Land. To me, the Palestinians were just getting in the way of God's plan.
300,000 Palestinians are unemployed.
In spite of all the years of conflict, there's hope here, if you know where to look for it.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
We understand that a plane has crashed into...
The people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Biggest and most costly manhunt in U.S. history.
United States killed Osama bin Laden.
There are reports surfacing that Al-Qaeda has placed a $50,000 US bounty on the heads of any U.S. Navy SEALs.
Nobody's going to survive that. There's nobody in that.
This is the single largest loss of life in Afghanistan in a single incident.
Most of them are U.S. Navy SEALs.
We discovered bullets in the bodies of the Navy SEALs. The military threw them away.
More likely than not, that supports a shootout on board.
Anybody out there, we have a fallen angel.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans. At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Hello, my friends. I'm Dennis Prager. Dan Henninger is a columnist for the Wall Street Journal and a member of the editorial board. Before I ask him anything, I just want to say in his presence what I say when there is nobody from the Wall Street Journal on. Thank God for the editorial page and opinion pages of the Wall Street Journal. Okay, I've said it. You know I mean it. And I am curious on the human level. I mean, you're in New York City, and it's overwhelmingly on the left. Do you feel in any way just in your own world there?
Well, for the last year and a half or so, Dennis, with the pandemic, we certainly have been in our own world here, not having much association with people other than walking along the street. But yes, intellectually, one does feel in one's own world. Here in New York, you know, we've just been through, not to get off subject too much, but we've just been through nearly 8 years of Bill de Blasio's mayoralty, which has been something of a fantasy trip. The New York people of the city of New York did elect, or seem to be electing, the Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams ran on a law and order ticket. But, you know, Adams' voters were mostly in those inner city neighborhoods out in Brooklyn, Queens, Harlem, and so forth. And that is where the reality check took place, not in Manhattan, not in the upscale neighborhoods of Brooklyn. So, yeah, in a way, one feels isolated in New York, but it's reassuring to know that there is a sense of pragmatism in reality, if not along the streets of Midtown Manhattan, at least out in the outer boroughs where, you know, middle-class, lower-middle-class people live and want a better life, and hopefully they're going to get that.
In light of that, I'm curious, does the Upper East Side or Upper West Side liberal, but they're really leftist, do they really believe that defunding police is a plus for society?
I think progressives do believe that, Dennis. It's kind of one of the things I do raise in my column today about what's going on in Congress with this great progressive bill. Yes, I think progressives are blinded to the realities. We may talk about what psychological transformation allows people to think these things, but, you know, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez defeated a traditional Democrat in Queens. To be sure, he had stopped paying attention to his constituents, but she won because there's a lot of upper middle class millennials, professional tech workers who moved into Queens, and they simply sit up there in those apartments on the 25th floor, sort of oblivious to what's going on in the streets around them. And they do continue to believe, which is why you've got those progressive prosecutors in Manhattan, Queens, Chicago, Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Los Angeles, Seattle, continuing with those policies, decriminalization, despite the reality of crime going on all around them, was displayed in the FBI's extraordinary murder statistics released this week, the highest that they've ever recorded.
All right, let's get to a major part of your column today, and that is the what is it, $3.5 trillion bill. So, just on a political basis, and I hate to put people on the spot with predictions, but to the best of your ability to foresee what's going on, will that bill pass? Will Manchin and Sinema, will they actually not vote for it?
Yes, Dennis, that $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill, as currently configured, all nearly 2,500 pages of it, that is not going to pass. It's going to have to change in some way, because it's pretty clear that Senators Manchin and Sinema aren't going to budge on this. Senator Manchin put out a long, explicit statement last evening making his position clear that it was not merely the spending totals involved, but the fact, as he said afterwards, he does not think it's a good idea at this point to be enacting entitlements that can never be reversed. It's not a good idea to be enacting entitlements like the 4 in this bill that are not means tested. His difficulties with this bill are substantive, and I believe her senators are too. Her difficulties, I think, are not so much with the environmental side of it. She's from Arizona. She is probably in favor of many of those things, but I think she does have real problems with the outscale level of the spending and the fact that they're trying to jam so many different pieces of legislation into one bill. Senator Sinema actually does seem to believe that the Congress, or at least the Senate, should function as a plausible institution and not merely pass bills on this scale, which most members of the Senate do not fully understand. So it's a kind of a reality check. Fortunately, they're both dug in, Dennis, and something is going to have to come back. Normally in a situation like this, you would get leadership from the White House, from the president, and I have to say, it's a little bit mysterious to me, the absence of leadership coming out of this White House. I think it has something to do with the president's inability to focus long-term on anything, shall we say. You cannot imagine a Bill Clinton or a Barack Obama letting it get to this point, but Joe Biden has, and it looks, Dennis, as though here in the next several days, this legislation, it won't collapse. They can go on to it later if they don't get the votes this week, but it is going to get smaller.
Why do you think Joe Manchin has not become a Republican? He would have no pressure on him. The pressure on him now is so intense from the Democrats. He could alleviate it in one fell swoop.
Well, he's a lifelong Democrat. I think he's an interesting figure, to be sure. And, you know, bear in mind that one of the notable things that Senator Manchin keeps talking about is his affinity to Senator Robert Byrd, one of his predecessors at West Virginia. In his time, Senator Byrd was a legendary figure in the Senate, and he is indeed the creator of the so-called Byrd Rule, which is in play right now. It is the idea that if you're going to do a reconciliation bill, put a lot of pieces into a reconciliation bill, they do have to be relevant to spending and tax issues. That's what the parliamentarian has been ruling on. But Joe Manchin reveres Senator Byrd, who was a Democrat through and through, albeit from West Virginia, back in the days when West Virginia was a Democratic state. It's very much a Republican state now. But I think Joe Manchin, you know, he's a West Virginia. I think his roots go deep there, and I think he likes the idea now of being a Democrat, albeit one on the fringes of his party. He's relishing that at the moment.
Okay, good. It's fine with me as long as he comes through. So, what about the raising of the debt limit?
Well, the debt limit is something that the Democrats look like they're going to do on their own, and they should be doing it on their own. I mean, you know, it was just unreal, the idea that they would be demanding that Republicans participate with them in raising the debt limit, currently at $28 trillion, incidentally, but having passed the multi-trillion-dollar COVID-related bills earlier, and now these, I mean, the $2.5 trillion has been calculated by some to be actually $5 trillion. Throw in the infrastructure bill, we're past $6 trillion. Why should the Republicans participate in raising the debt limit to enable the Democrats to do that?
Well, because then because the Democrats will say that the government is shutting down because of the Republicans.
But they're in charge. That argument only works if, depending on which party is running the Congress, and at the moment they're the ones in charge, and they've got to take the hit if it shuts down. Okay. God, I can't imagine they're allowed that on top of everything else going on.
All right, let me just tell everybody you must read the column that's up at DennisPrager.com and the Wall Street Journal every day. Certainly, its editorial pages. Thank you, Dan Henninger.
Great to talk to you, Dennis.
Trending now on the Hugh Hewitt Show.
That not one Republican would support the budget that's coming over with a debt hike attached. They will not support a debt hike relief standing alone. Is that your position?
Absolutely. Democrats have the White House, the House, and the Senate. They don't want any of our involvement with all their radical spending, which we shouldn't be. And so if they want to raise the debt ceiling, they want to do it on their own. You know why? They've been very clear. They don't want to do the debt ceiling on their own because they know it's toxic. They say, oh, we want you to be part of our what we're doing here. You know, their budget in this deal, the $3.5, which is really $5.5 trillion, will take our debt to $45 trillion. Now let's look at what's happening in families right now with inflation. It's hurting our poorest families. It's hurting our families on fixed income. And the Democrats are causing all this with their spending, and they don't want to be responsible for it. They are responsible for what's going on.
And so do you think you'll keep, for example, you've got to get Senator Murkowski reelected, and I hope you do. I think she's a good, solid vote on 99% of the stuff that we vote on. Will she and any other Republican think about bolting and voting for it? Because it will hurt them. It will really hurt them if they vote for any Democratic.
I don't think any are going to vote for it. We have a clean continuing resolution that McConnell and Richard Shelby put together that will deal with. We're not going to do the debt ceiling. That's the Democratic responsibility. We'll keep the government open. We will help with the Afghan refugees, and we'll also help with the disaster relief for Louisiana. So ours is clean, all right. But the Democrats don't want to do it. I don't know if we'll even get a vote on it. So the Democrats might shut down government. I don't think they will, but they could decide to shut down government.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Out of your mind if you think this family can pick you up every time you fall.
Every time I take one step forward, seems like I fall.
Boy, Dylan Wright came in this morning. He wants to fight you.
Never say die, gonna give it all.
This is your opportunity to get back on your feet.
This is my time. Won't quit, I'll just be good.
You gotta know who it is you're fighting for. That's the fight, Bo.
I can't believe I'm saying it, that Bo Lawson can go 10 years without a competitive fight, and here he is going toe-to-toe with the world champion. No one expected this out of him.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Fiance? No, I can't be your fiance.
You're gonna go. You're gonna be my fiance, and you're gonna be the most amazing, fascinating, most successful man ever. We're only gonna be there for a few hours, eat dinner, and I promise we'll have the best breakup of all time.
My baby, my princess. Oh, yeah.
Beat a little bit.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
I'd like to remind you that there are very few groups that we agree to do fundraising for, because I'm very selective if I ask you to donate to anybody. One of the most important is ADF, Alliance Defending Freedom. ADF is the greatest advocate of religious freedom, for example, and they go to the Supreme Court regularly, and they usually win. They give all their services for free. That means the public has to support ADF. By the way, getting into the habit of giving to good things is a beautiful thing to do. And once you start, you'll continue. So your donation of $100 to the Freedom Fund will help Alliance Defending Freedom continue its fights. Obviously, some of you can give more, some of you can't give 100. They understand that, but that's what they're asking for. Anything is good. Since their founding in 1994, they've played a role in 64 victories at the Supreme Court. Click the banner at DennisPrager.com for Alliance Defending Freedom, or call 855-649-2020. 855-649-2020. Alliance Defending Freedom. The number or the banner at my page. Dan in Norco, California. Hello.
Hi, Dennis.
Hi.
So I was listening to your podcast, and I'm on the same page as you with the lockdowns and with the masks. And I was diagnosed, and my wife was diagnosed almost 2 weeks ago. I'll try to keep it quick. But they refused to prescribe anything. Me and my wife both have underlying health issues. They sent us home on Saturday. So I got online, started looking for alternative methods, hydrochloroquine, ivermectin. By Sunday, we got a hold of a doctor that would prescribe hydrochloroquine and infusions. So we went to St. Jude. They prescribed the infusions to us. Found out I had pneumonia 1 day later after they sent us home. And now we're on the upswing of recovery. The downside, my neighbor at 45 was told the same thing, mother of two and wife, and she passed away 7 days ago. And she was told the exact same thing several times.
The exact same thing meaning what?
Go home, take vitamins.
In other words, no therapeutics.
Rest. No therapeutics. They refused.
Who's they? Who's they?
The doctors.
At a hospital or her own doctor?
Their own doctor. That's their own doctor. And we were refused at a hospital on Saturday when we were diagnosed, and we were refused at urgent care.
Mm-hmm. Did they give a reason?
The reason that they gave us and gave them was that there was nothing they could give us or give her and her husband, because her husband had it too. And there's nothing they could prescribe. And if it got worse...
Wait, there is nothing they could prescribe medically or legally?
Medically.
Nothing, in other words, nothing works?
Right, nothing works.
Just get sick and then intubated and die. That's right. That's why it's one of my reasons for contempt for the medical profession. Not all doctors, needless to say, but the profession has sunk in my eyes and the eyes of mass numbers of Americans. I remind you regularly, the American Medical Association issued a statement a few weeks ago that birth certificates in America should not include sex. Get it? There are no longer to be males and females born in the United States, according to the American Medical Association. And the Children's Doctors Association, they have, I guess, I don't know if it's the Pediatrics Association, is it? Came out for masks for 2-year-olds, if I'm not mistaken. Bad stuff. It is so disgusting what the governor of New York said that I'm going to play it again. So here again, I will tell you why it's so truly obscene what the governor of New York said. Okay, so as I noted earlier, but it is worth noting over and over, if you didn't take the vaccine, you didn't listen to God. Can you imagine, as I said earlier, and I need to make this point over and over, the left can say anything, the right can say nothing. If we said that something we believe in, if you do not believe in it, you are not listening to God. Yes, we went over this. I loved it. We would be Bible-thumping primitives, establishing a Christian theocracy in America, imposing our medieval religious beliefs on others. Most people who are pro-life think you're not listening to God if you believe that a child can be killed at any time in pregnancy if there's no health issue for the woman. But if one said that, can you imagine a governor, a Republican governor saying, you know, if you believe that abortion is moral at any time of pregnancy, with a completely viable fetus, you're not listening to God. You know what hell would break loose in this country? But if this left-wing idiot, she's clearly an idiot, another one, another college-produced fool, arrogant fool, I might add. But if she says it, you're not listening to God if you don't get vaccinated. That's fine. They're allowed to say and do anything. When you have the media on your side, you can get away with anything. Kamala Harris spoke to a kids group. One kid spoke of Israel committing genocide. And Kamala Harris, I'll play it for you later, said, well, thank you for telling us your truth.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Mark Milley admitted yesterday that for that pathetic pseudo-journalist Bob Woodward, for his new blockbuster dishing book of scandal, Mark Milley gave him hours of interviews. Hours? Sorry. How busy should the chairman of the Joint Chiefs be? Just curious. As the Taliban is ready to take back Afghanistan, these are interviews he gave this stinking year. This year. As the Taliban is rising, as China is building its military, as Iran is threatening us, as Russia is being ever more militaristic, you're sitting down for hours with an avowed, rabid Democrat, quote-unquote, journalist to give inside scoops on how you stood up to President Trump by undermining the chain of command that you by the Constitution are not a part of? What the hell are you doing? Maybe those hours could have been spent, I don't know, reading the Long War Journal by our friend Bill Roggio, where he predicted in March that the Taliban would be in control and Kabul would fall. Maybe you would better spend your time reading books like Cynical Theories, reading the works of Chris Rufo about what critical race theory really is and why it's racism and bigotry. But oh no, you had to be a politician.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com. Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
I also have a view that the withdrawal of those forces would lead inevitably to the collapse of the Afghan military forces and eventually the Afghan government.
Well, you were right, and it took 11 days for the Taliban to take over Afghanistan. Have you seen some of the images coming out of Afghanistan, by the way? They're real pleasant. Bodies being hung from overpasses, people being executed in the street, an Afghan soldier led out into the street and just shot dead. The Taliban walking around with these giant whips and they're hitting women over the backs. Here's Secretary Austin also contradicting Biden and exposing Joe Biden for the bald-faced lie, the bald-faced lie he told the American people.
It's a simple question, Secretary Austin. He said no senior military leader advised him to leave a small troop presence behind. Is that true or not? Did these officer and General Miller's recommendations get to the president personally?
Their input was received by the president and considered by the president for sure. In terms of what they specifically recommended, Senator, as they just said, they're not going to provide what they recommended in confidence.
What a crap storm. What a crap show. Senator Josh Hawley put it best. Thank goodness for people like Josh Hawley and Marsha Blackburn and Dan Sullivan. The Republicans were certainly on fire yesterday in holding these failed commanders to have some sort of at least a public accountability.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Prager.com. They were giants, and morally speaking, midgets hate giants. That is the reason the left hates the founders. They're small, and the founders were giants. They can't measure up to them in any way. Anyway. So, that's the reason for the attacks. It's the reason those videos are important. I'm playing for you the truly obscene comments of the governor of New York State, which she will get away with because the press is to the Democratic Party what the Soviet press was to the Soviet Communist Party, its spokesman. There will no more likely be a New York Times editorial against what this woman said than a Pravda editorial against what Brezhnev said. So let's continue with it. So she said, you are not listening to God if you don't get the vaccine. Okay, go on. Yeah.
I need you to go out and talk about it.
So let me say another thing about that. the leftism is a religion. You don't understand anything about the left if you do not understand it is the post-Christian religion. Continue, please.
And talk about it and say, we owe this to each other. We love each other. Jesus taught us to love one another.
Right.
And how do you show that love?
Yeah, I'll tell you one way you show that love, by not putting masks on 2-year-olds. I'll show you another way to show that love. Let people visit dying parents. To have the left talk about showing love, as I said last hour, in the most eloquent way I could put it, makes me puke. It is a hate-filled movement. For them to talk about love is the devil quoting scripture. It's a perversion of love on the left. Yes, they love. What do they love exactly? What do they love? Do they love blacks, for whom they have only contempt? Do they love blacks, whose murder rate, whose death by homicide rate is skyrocketing because of the attacks by the left on the police? Whom do they love exactly? They love power. That's all they love. They don't love the United States. Right? They have contempt for the United States. They love Christians. They have contempt for Christians. Whom do they love? She talks about love, the treatment of people this past year and a half, the dying in hospitals, children, schools. Is that loving? Continue, please.
But to care about each other enough to say, please get vaccinated because I love you. I want you to live. I want our kids to be safe when they're in schools.
Okay,
I want you to be safe when you go.
Here's another thing that she should know. There are people like Dr. Risch, I think he's of Yale, I believe, epidemiologist, who believes that the left has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans in COVID because of its opposition to therapeutics. So don't talk to me, Governor Hochul, about saving lives because of vaccines, when the number of dead because we deprived them of therapeutics is so large. Continue, please.
I want you to be safe when you go to a doctor's office or to a hospital and are treated by somebody. You don't want to get the virus from them.
Right. So
You're already
now,
sick.
thanks to her, they will have National Guardsmen instead of nurses. They've already been postponing important surgeries in parts of New York State, thanks to her despicable order to fire every single medical worker who won't take the vaccine. But she knows better than them, right? Of course she does. The left knows better than anybody about anything. That's why they have contempt for the founders. They're smarter than the founders in their own mind. They really believe that. ReliefFactor.com, 800-500-8384. I've been reading to you people's statements, and they are accurate. I mean, they are real statements. Nobody made these up, of people whose lives have been turned around because they are now either fully pain-free or relatively pain-free thanks to Relief Factor. I have a lot of pain, and after only 4 days of using Relief Factor, I am already experiencing less pain and stiffness. Can't wait to see how I feel in a couple of more weeks. Relief Factor is a blessing sent by God. Well, I don't know if it's sent by God, but it is a blessing. Try it out for 3 weeks for $19.95. ReliefFactor.com.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the
Streaming on Salem Now.
The public would be outraged if they knew the truth.
Why do you think our politicians are not on the sidewalk right now talking to you?
Don't have no respect.
The old wall randomly turns into a guardrail, followed by miles of open border.
human trafficking brought.
That journey is extremely dangerous.
The 7-year-old girl died in the desert.
From the country of India.
A great pillar of the community was killed by a man who had been deported at least twice.
This little urn contains the ashes of my son. His dreams cut short forever.
We're so worried about other countries' problems, and we don't even focus on our own.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
There's about 57 Muslim states in the world. There's one Jewish state.
The massive ingathering of Jews in the last 150 years back to the land is absolutely unprecedented.
They say that there's no greater sign of redemption coming than the Jewish people returning to the hills of Judea.
As a Christian, I've always supported Israel's claim to the Holy Land. To me, the Palestinians were just getting in the way of God's plan.
300,000 Palestinians are unemployed.
In spite of all the years of conflict, there's hope here, if you know where to look for it.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
I think this family can pick you up every time you fall.
Every time I take one step forward.
When Wright came in this morning, he wants to fight you.
No one expected this out of him.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
Tesla was a genius. His most amazing discoveries thought to be written in a lost journal. Now, in the right hands, it could revolutionize the 21st century.
You can stop an earthquake. Doesn't that mean you could start one too?
That's why that notebook should never fall into the wrong hands.
Shall we stop this thing?
Save the universe!
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Hey, did we finish the governor's statement? By the way, did you get my Kamala Harris email? You have it ready? Okay, well, you'll let me know. There's more to the governor. Let's continue. She's lying. I accuse the governor of New York of lying. She will not take on a denier. It's a lie. It's a pure lie. She will take on anyone who denies that the country is systemically racist. Okay? Then I volunteer Larry Elder. I'd be happy to do it, and then nobody does it as well as Larry Elder. I'll take on any denier. Really? Has this woman debated a conservative in her life? I wonder. See, 99% of the time, probably 100, but I'll be conservative. Should there be a debate? And if it's an articulate conservative and an articulate leftist, the conservative always wins. Because they don't know what we stand for, and we know exactly what they stand for. Sort of like having the enemy's battle plans. We study under lefties, we read lefties, we watch lefties. They don't study under conservatives. They don't watch conservatives. They don't read conservatives. So, of course we have this advantage. We know all their arguments, all their irrational, reason-free, amoral arguments. Pablum. Can't wait to read to you. I got a hold of the San Francisco Symphony statement to its own orchestra. Can't wait to read it to you. Here's Kamala Harris, another giant in the Democratic Party, along with Hochul.
I see that over the summer there have been...
Wait, so let me explain. She's in a kid's class. I don't know, how old are these kids? 11, 12, 13? Anyway, very young kids. And so this is a girl. You're kidding me. This girl is a college student? Do you see the picture? Does it look like okay, fine, even better. George Mason University. So it's a student, whatever age, speaking to our eminent vice president.
I see that over the summer there have been protests and demonstrations in astronomical numbers standing with Palestine, but then just a few days ago there were funds allocated to continue backing Israel, which hurts my heart because it's an ethnic genocide and the displacement of people, the same that happened in America, and I'm sure you're aware of this. And I bring this up also because of the issue of how Americans are struggling because of lack of health care, public health care, lack of affordable housing, and all this money ends up going to in funding Israel and backing Saudi Arabia and whatnot. And I think that the people have spoken very often in what they do need, and I feel like there's a lack of listening, and I just feel like I need to bring this up because it affects my life and people I really care about's lives, and this is just something I have to bring up.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you did. And again, this is about the fact that your voice, your perspective, your experience, your truth should not be suppressed.
Israel's committing ethnic genocide. I'm glad you spoke up to express your truth. Your truth. Right. Your truth. I'll bet you my grandson, who just turned 11, but who's being raised in a religious home, in my case Jewish, or my son's case Jewish, I'll bet you he'll never say your truth in his life. I'll bet you. The term would be utterly foreign to him. The secular world has the concept of your truth. Because secularism, even if you're a secular conservative, God bless you. Nevertheless, secularism believes in your truth. Morally speaking. They still believe in, secular conservatives do believe in mathematical truth and scientific truth. Yeah, it is her truth that Israel's committing ethnic genocide. It's a gigantic lie. It's pure, undiluted lie. But it's her truth. And this is the Vice President of the United States saying this. If we've ever had maybe Spiro Agnew is as unimpressive as Kamala Harris, but it's hard to imagine almost any vice president as unimpressive as her. Ethnic genocide. So here's the story on the ethnic genocide of Palestinians. There are more Palestinians today than there were a year ago or 20 years ago. In other words, Israel's doing a very bad job at ethnic genocide because the Palestinians keep multiplying. But for the left, Israel is committing ethnic genocide and Donald Trump was a fascist dictator. And that's what they believe. This girl is 100% brainwashed. Everything she said is the function of her educational system, which is morally perverse. Thank God there are voices like mine, and not only mine. Thank God. But we need your voice too. Very important. You might want to send out this clip. See what your friends think about it.
Trending now on America First with Sebastian Gorka.
Mark Milley admitted yesterday that for that pathetic pseudo-journalist Bob Woodward, for his new blockbuster dishing book of scandal, Mark Milley gave him hours of interviews. Hours? Sorry. How busy should the chairman of the Joint Chiefs be? Just curious. As the Taliban is ready to take back Afghanistan, these are interviews he gave this stinking year. This year! As the Taliban is rising, as China is building its military, as Iran is threatening us, as Russia is being ever more militaristic, you're sitting down for hours with an avowed, rabid Democrat, quote-unquote, journalist to give inside scoops on how you stood up to President Trump by undermining the chain of command that you, by the Constitution, are not a part of? What the hell are you doing? Maybe those hours could have been spent, I don't know, reading the Long War Journal by our friend Bill Roggio, where he predicted in March that the Taliban would be in control and Kabul would fall. Maybe you would better spend your time reading books like Cynical Theories, reading the works of Chris Rufo about what critical race theory really is and why it's racism and bigotry. But oh no, you had to be a politician.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe today at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Fiance? No, I can't be your fiance.
You're gonna go. You're gonna be my fiance, and you're gonna be the most amazing, fascinating, most successful man ever. We're only gonna be there for a few hours, eat dinner, and I promise we'll have the best breakup of all time.
My baby, my princess. Oh, yeah.
Beat a little bit. Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Indeed, my friends. Good to be with you. David, Culver City, California. Hello.
Thanks for taking my call, Dennis.
Yes, sir.
I have a main point, but I just want to make a quick comment. The interchange that Kamala Harris had with the student was, the student is not an American-educated student. She's a Yemeni national who's studying here this year.
She's a what? I'm sorry, she's a what national? Armenian?
Yemeni.
How do you know that? That's interesting. Where did you read that?
Yes, here. I think I read it in the New York Times. So I read it in one of the online papers. She's a Yemeni national. Look it up.
Okay, so
Anyhow,
fine. So she wasn't brainwashed by American education.
Okay, no, that's not my main, Dennis.
Right.
I just wanted to give you that information. Okay.
There's always a danger in not talking to me immediately about the point you told the person who picked up the call.
Okay, I apologize.
No, you don't have to apologize. But you didn't commit a sin. It's just it hurts you because then I react to what you said. But go ahead.
Okay, I was just giving you information. That's all.
No, I know. I said it. You didn't commit a sin.
Thank you. In terms of the governor of New York, to me, what she was saying was she was thanking God for what scientists have been able to produce and the scientific knowledge. I don't have a problem with that.
I didn't react to that.
And I don't.
Wait! I don't know why you. Wait. No, I'm not letting you finish because you said something irrelevant, utterly irrelevant. I didn't comment 1 second on that. I commented on her saying, "If you don't take the vaccine, you're not listening to God." Why don't you react to what I said?
That's her opinion. People say if you countenance abortion, you're acting against God.
That's right. And then what happened? Okay, that was my point. I don't understand.
But the point is, we don't make laws based on religion. We make laws based on...
Oh, she did. She's making a law. You can't go anywhere if you are not vaccinated. How about, all right, so in using your logic, let's have conservative states say, if you had an abortion with regard to a child, you aborted a child that had a heartbeat, and you had no medical reason to do so, you cannot enter a movie theater. Okay? You are ostracized from civilized society. That would be the equivalent law as in New York State. You will lose your job. It's inconceivable that would happen, and by the way, no conservative would support it. That's my answer to you. We will return, my friends. I'm Dennis Prager. And please, during the break, click on the ADF banner, Alliance Defending Freedom, to defend religious freedom in America, and donate.
Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
I also have a view that the withdrawal of those forces would lead inevitably to the collapse of the Afghan military forces and eventually the Afghan government.
Well, you were right, and it took 11 days for the Taliban to take over Afghanistan. Have you seen some of the images coming out of Afghanistan, by the way? They're real pleasant. Bodies being hung from overpasses, people being executed in the street, an Afghan soldier led out into the street and just shot dead. The Taliban walking around with these giant whips and they're hitting women over the backs. Here's Secretary Austin also contradicting Biden and exposing Joe Biden for the bald-faced lie, the bald-faced lie he told the American people.
It's a simple question, Secretary Austin. He said no senior military leader advised him to leave a small troop presence behind. Is that true or not? Did these officer and General Miller's recommendations get to the president personally?
Their input was received by the president and considered by the president for sure. In terms of what they specifically recommended, Senator, as they just said, they're not going to provide what they recommended in confidence.
What a crap storm. What a crap show. Senator Josh Hawley put it best. Thank goodness for people like Josh Hawley and Marsha Blackburn and Dan Sullivan. The Republicans were certainly on fire yesterday in holding these failed commanders to have some sort of at least a public accountability.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Good. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I'm a green card holder, have been for 20 years.
Thank you. From where?
When I first, from South Africa.
Excellent. Thank you.
When I came into this country, I had to have blood tests to see that I didn't have syphilis, gonorrhea, HIV. I had to show all kinds of vaccinations. I had to show means to be able to support myself, et cetera, et cetera. So my point being is that the law is not being upheld as we understand it. And so I don't understand how they are circumnavigating the law again. I mean, obviously allowing these people into the country in the first place without proper vetting, etc., is one of the ways. But I mean, the laws are written for legal immigration. There are methods and ways of doing it. They say the system is broken, but it's not broken. It functions.
Greg, I am deeply in your debt. Stay where you are because I've got a couple of questions for you, but just an addendum to your magnificent remarks. The system is not broken. We totally have a system that is set up to work if the laws that are on the books will only be enforced. But that's a huge if, and they are being intentionally ignored. So 20 years you've been here, right? And as someone who's actually followed the law, share with me a couple of minutes of your experience on whether it was too easy, too hard, or just right.
I think it was just right.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com. Trending now on The Hugh Hewitt Show.
The message is very simple. Democrats broke it. They bought it. They have to fix it. Can the Republicans stay on message?
I hope so. It's going to require a lot of discipline, but we have to do that. I mean, we have offered numerous bipartisan outreaches to the speaker and her team. We should have done this whole process through regular order, gone committee by committee, passed 12 separate appropriations bills. But the fact is, as I said before, the squad is driving the train, and everything is being sacrificed to the altar of the Bernie Sanders socialist spending spree. I mean, I think Pelosi, this is her last hurrah, and she wants to go out with a bang, and she wants to cement her legacy, and so she's going to try and jam through as much as possible. And I think there's a lot of Democrats right now who are, quite frankly, afraid of all of the energy coming from the far left, and let's hope that some Democrats in the Senate, particularly Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, stand their ground. But Republicans need to be disciplined. This is no time for us to be complicit in their games. We need to stand up for the American people, and particularly in light of all the other crises and manifest failures we're seeing from the Biden administration, whether it's the complete absence of security on the southern border. We have an out-of-control crisis on the southern border, whether it's the ongoing failures of U.S. foreign policy owing to our surrender in Afghanistan, and all of the lies, quite frankly, that the president told at the UN General Assembly yesterday. We need to be disciplined right now because the Democrats from the White House and certainly Democrats in Congress are simply not operating in a way that has the best interest of the American people in mind.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery. There is a whole big cottage industry for racism. If racism went away, a lot of people would be unemployed.
The mob during the Minneapolis riots following the death of George Floyd. A bunch of white thugs, frankly, burning down the city's traditional black and Asian business districts.
They're racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
We're not in good musical form today. My friends, I'm Dennis Prager. I thank you for being with me. The crushing of American life by the left is now going to be done in the economic and social spheres. Let me read to you from a New York Post piece. Democrats' massive spending plans will blow up U.S. budget for generations. It's going to cost nothing, President Biden said of the Democrats' massive $3.5 trillion spending binge, which House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is trying to pass this week. Don't believe it? The bill, which aims to move America closer to a European-style social welfare state, will shorten the fuse on a debt bomb that's already set to detonate. Last year, lawmakers enacted $3 trillion in mostly justified deficit spending for a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. Yet the 2021 spending blowout is set to dwarf these costs. Lawmakers have already enacted $1.9 trillion stimulus bill, filled with unnecessary items like unemployment benefits that exceed the wages for many available jobs, and bailouts to states already running budget surpluses. The Senate has passed a $550 billion infrastructure bill that is financed mostly with gimmicks. Biden's 8.4% discretionary spending increase would permanently raise the baseline by $1 trillion over the decade. And now Democrats are trying to pass a $3.5 trillion reconciliation bill that would raise deficits by as much as $1.75 trillion. Even those figures understate the bill's true cost by at least $1 trillion by pretending that policies like the expanded child tax credit will expire within a few years, even though the Democrats' policy is to make them permanent. Add it all up, and congressional Democrats are set to commit $8 trillion in new spending over the decade, of which $6 trillion would be borrowed. That is quadruple the cost of the 2017 tax cuts. All this debt has a permanent cost. If interest rates ever nudge back up past 3%, this year's $6 trillion borrowing spree will cost $180 billion in additional interest costs every year, forever. That's $180 billion annually that could otherwise provide tax relief, assist veterans, or improve infrastructure. Instead, it will pay interest to bondholders. This year's Democratic spending binge is not the end of the story. Biden still has $3 trillion in leftover campaign promises covering Social Security, health care, higher education, and other issues. If his entire agenda is enacted, the national debt held by the public, which was just under $17 trillion before the pandemic, would reach $44 trillion a decade from now. The long-term danger is that today's irresponsible government borrowing is set to collide with 74 million baby boomers retiring into Social Security and medical systems that are projected by the Congressional Budget Office to run a $112 trillion cash shortfall over the next 3 decades, including the resulting budget interest costs. All this debt is projected to make interest the largest item in the federal budget. Did you get that? Consuming nearly half of all tax revenues within 3 decades, just paying the interest. And these figures assume that interest rates still remain comparatively low. If rates exceed the CBO projections by even just 1 percentage point, it would add $30 trillion in interest over 30 years. Locking in all this new spending on top of rising Social Security and Medicare will likely push annual budget deficits past $2 trillion, even during peace and prosperity. If Democratic spenders cannot tax the rich to pay for their historic spending surge, whom do you think they will come after next? European nations fund their social democracies by slamming their middle class with large income, payroll, and value-added taxes. You know what value-added taxes are? It's just a sales tax, a national sales tax. America cannot fund a vast social democracy on the backs of the wealthiest 3% of taxpayers. Once all that new spending is locked in, the middle class should protect their wallets. The bill is coming. Well, so on every level, the left is destroying America. The country was founded with the great, great idea of limited government. Take care of yourself, take care of your family, take care of your community. Instead, the state takes care of you, takes care of your family, and takes care of your community. The state. It has such a terrible consequence on the human character, just as it does on the national budget. Young people who vote Democrat are engaging in as irrational an act as a human can engage in. They're angry at the older generation for not doing enough on global warming. We'll talk about global warming with Bjorn Lomborg at the bottom of the hour. They should really be angry at the older generation for giving them unsustainable debt. Unsustainable. I've said on many occasions, it's worthy of repetition. Addiction to benefits is harder to break than addiction to heroin. Once people get something for free, it is close to impossible to take that away. Then they're hooked. The left everywhere knows that. And that's why the left keeps winning elections. People want to keep their benefits. Give me something for free. I will give you my freedom. I will give you my income. All I want is things for free. Milton Friedman, the great Nobel laureate in economics, was asked once, can he summarize his knowledge of economics in a sentence? And he said, yes, I can. There are no free lunches. But the Democrats and the left in every other country tell people there are free lunches. And theoretically, with others paying for it, they are free. But as this editorial in the New York Post pointed out, others aren't the only ones paying for it. You could tax all the rich all you like. It still is not a panacea for all the spending that is taking place. If you confiscated all the wealth, you'd still have a massive debt. It's another amazing thing that the rich support the Democrats. Shows that they don't think that their wealth is threatened. That's the irony, isn't it? Jeff Bezos and the whole gang, they all support the left. Virtually every single billionaire. Virtually every single major corporation. They don't believe that the left will hurt them. In the purest form of fascism, collusion between business and government to suppress a society, that is what we are seeing. So they have no issue. You think Google is troubled by this debt. The big corporations, especially big tech, made out like bandits during the lockdown. 1-8-Prager-776.
Streaming on Salem Now.
We understand that a plane has crashed into...
The people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Biggest and most costly manhunt in U.S. history.
United States killed Osama bin Laden.
There are reports surfacing that Al-Qaeda has placed a $50,000 US bounty on the heads of any U.S. Navy SEALs.
Nobody's going to survive that. There's nobody in that.
This is the single largest loss of life in Afghanistan in a single incident.
Most of them are U.S. Navy SEALs.
We discovered bullets in the bodies of the Navy SEAls. The military threw them away.
More likely than not, that supports a shootout on board.
Anybody out there, we have a fallen angel.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
This is a story of how 1 million children were placed with local foster families. Parents from all walks of life share their stories of overcoming the one-child policy by taking in orphans. At a time where there's so much negativity and cynicism, here's proof that a single leap of faith can change the world.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
You ever thought of going to seminary?
Billy Graham.
Gloria a Dios, hermanos. ¿Quién está listo para ser transformado por el poder de su palabra?
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
I grew up poor, which is even worse than being poor.
Our lunch consisted of whatever my mother could scrape together from the dinner the night before. We would have sandwiches with no meat.
My American dream entailed working hard and making $20,000 a year. But I surpassed that goal and became a corporate CEO.
Put in an economic growth plan called 999.
We'll all be able to say, free at last, free at last.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Man, I miss my father, and I want him to be here with me, but he's not.
We all had something in common. A lot of us were miserable. We had no fathers in our lives.
This is how I began the life of crime. I desired to have a father who would tell me that what I did was wrong.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The Democratic Party somehow has convinced black people that they're the good guys. Never mind the skanky history of the Democratic Party. That was a party of slavery. There is a whole big cottage industry for racism. If racism went away, a lot of people would be unemployed.
The mob during the Minneapolis riots following the death of George Floyd. A bunch of white thugs, frankly, burning down the city's traditional black and Asian business district.
They're racist, racist, racist. Everything's racist.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
It's a terrific group. AndrewandTodd.com at Sierra Pacific Mortgage. The rates are still extraordinarily low. These guys have been advertising on my show from the first day of the lockdown in this country. I couldn't believe they were still working. Nobody was, or virtually nobody was. They were. Gives you an idea of their commitment, their professionalism, and I can add their integrity and their friendliness. So if you are considering anything, a refi, a cash out, refinance option, whatever it might be, credit card debt, home improvement projects you want to do, anything, just to add more savings, this may be the best time to take these rates. Go to andrewandtodd.com or call 888-888-1172. andrewandtodd.com, 888-888-1172. Good guys. New York Times piece that I'm reading here. United to fire 593 who refused vaccine. I'm trying to avoid flying United. They have become the most woke of the airlines, and so sometimes I can't avoid it. I'm on a very high level on United, but I find them disgusting. Just disgusting. In August, United Airlines became the first U.S. carrier and one of the first large corporations to mandate a vaccine for COVID-19. Scott Kirby, its chief executive, and Bret Hart, its president. Two people who, well, they won't be remembered by history, but to the extent that they make a footnote, they will be regarded as cowards of our time. This was an incredibly difficult decision, but keeping our team safe has always been our first priority. So you mean until now the team hasn't been safe? By the way, United is the same airline that said it's going to save half of its places for pilots in its pilot school for women and minorities. So they will not be choosing pilots based on excellence. Just want you to know about United Airlines. So this is in keeping. The same people who fire you for not getting a vaccine are the same people who will reduce standards for pilots. This is United Airlines under these two, I don't even know what adjective to use. These two bad men. I guess that's as simple as it gets. These two destructive men at United Airlines. Please don't fly it if you have any choice. Let them know why. You care about the United States more than the United Airlines. So, I mean, think about the lie that this is. So we want to keep our airline safe, so we're firing 600 employees. So again, it means until now it hasn't been safe. Has there been this massive outbreak of death and hospitalization on United? So what are they talking about? It's the world, the bath, the sea, the ocean of lies of the left. This is a perfect example. I salute the 593. Frankly, at least they have courage. More than one could say about Scott Kirby and Bret Hart. Wow. Roughly 350 workers in customer service, storekeeper, and baggage service positions have not reported proof of vaccination. So much for the unions, eh? Unions have been a big help to the workers at United. The unions don't help their workers. The unions help left-wing agendas. It's really remarkable, isn't it? It's not been healthy. God, if I'd have known. I flew United a lot in the last year and a half. Amazing. No mask while eating, so I try to eat or drink as much as possible, as long as possible on every flight. Got to nurse that drink, man, because the amazing thing is you can't spread or get COVID while eating or drinking. Staggering amount of anti-reason that is taking place, and people buy it. There's no doubt that if United found a hit that if enough people were disgusted with its wokeness, they would drop it. They only care about money and feeling good about themselves. Those poor 600 workers, they devote their lives to a company which then fires them for no good reason. Oh my God, America today is unrecognizable. Unrecognizable, my friends. Sarasota, Florida. Mary, hello.
Hello, Dennis.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to talk to you.
Thank you.
So it's a little complicated, but I'm not sure if you had referenced this New York Times article in the last few days about Israel not having the right to a Jewish state based on their only 70 to 80 year history or so on, and then subsequently, I think this 27th of September, they issued on Yom Kippur a correction to that. But
who issued it? I'm sorry, I missed that. Who issued this?
Yeah, well, the New York Times. The New York Times.
Oh,
I just
really?
looked it up again.
I am not familiar with that. I have to look into that.
So there was an original article where
All
they
right,
said.
so go on. Okay, go on.
Yeah, so the post that I reposted on my Facebook was about this New York Times article, which the person was saying was continuing its war against Jews and Israel by using fascist technique of changing history to conform to their approved narrative. There is minimal Jewish connection to the land. The article had said the Jews enjoyed two previous periods of sovereignty in the land.
All right, so what happened when you posted it? That's what you're calling about.
So
what happened?
I posted this, and the gentleman that originally posted it subsequently put a long, history of exactly what the Jewish presence was, and then I got reactions to it, some favorable, but one concerned me because it was from a close family member, and stated that, they were studying in a Hebrew scripture course and so on, and that the problem with this is that accuracy matters. We should be suspect of any modern regime claiming legitimacy based on antiquity. This is a source of dangerous tribalism, and obviously many could claim rights to statehood or even empire based on historical periods of their choosing, Persian, Greek, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And what do we do? Do we genetically test to see what modern people group retains the ancient inheritance?
So
I responded that my point was about the New York Times being totally biased and that we should support Israel. We should
right. All right. I'm curious about your friendship with this person. It would be interesting. Rebecca in Denver is the wife of a United Airlines pilot who has not taken the vaccine. Well, don't go away, Rebecca, even though I have to get on with a very important guest.
Streaming on Salem Now.
The public would be outraged if they knew the truth.
Why do you think our politicians are not on the sidewalk right now talking to you?
Don't have no respect.
The old wall randomly turns into a guardrail, followed by miles of open border. Human trafficking gone.
That journey is extremely dangerous.
The 7-year-old girl died in the desert.
From the country of India.
A great pillar of the community was killed by a man who had been deported at least twice.
This little urn contains the ashes of my son. His dreams cut short forever.
We're so worried about other countries' problems, and we don't even focus on our own.
Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com. Streaming on Salem Now.
There's about 57 Muslim states in the world. There's one Jewish state.
The massive ingathering of Jews in the last 150 years back to the land is absolutely unprecedented.
They say that there's no greater sign of redemption coming than the Jewish people returning to the hills of Judea.
As a Christian, I've always supported Israel's claim to the Holy Land. To me, the Palestinians were just getting in the way of God's plan.
300,000 Palestinians are unemployed.
in spite of all the years of conflict. There's hope here, if you know where to look for it.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
But Biden is taking a hit, and Democrats are trying to stay clear from him. The caller in the last hour said, "Where's Kamala?" Kamala is doing her best to stay clear of Joe Biden. I mean, her polls stink, but combined, the both of them combined, I guess it's extra stinky together because both of them stink. And the funny thing is, her polls are worse than his, and she wants to be nowhere near this cat. But people are finding out that this Build Back Better thing is a socialist agenda, and the $3.5 trillion partisan wish list that the Democrats are wanting is starting to turn people off because people are starting to realize that the economic pain is going to be felt at home. Average, everyday Americans sitting around their dinner table are going to feel that pain. Overall, the poll found that Biden's net approval average is -7. That means 44% are approving of his job as the president, and 51% disapprove. So this is a major slide. A generic Republican on the ballot at this time would lead in all 7 districts, going up against the Democrat incumbents by 6 percentage points on average. So, Carl, the elections are so far away. Why are you worried about this, or why are you talking about this now? Polls don't matter. Polls do matter to Democrats. Unfortunately, I feel like Republicans are starting to do the same. Republicans have an opportunity of a lifetime, in my opinion, to kick Biden while he's down, and you have Kevin McCarthy. Kevin McCarthy seems to have backtracked slightly, but Mitch McConnell talking about they don't want to impeach. Why not? Why not?
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Can go to Rebecca in Denver. Hello, Rebecca.
Hi.
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 Hi again.
How are you? Nice to meet you today. I'm good.
Thank you kindly. Good. What's on your mind?
So I'm not sure what I do.
What you do is tell me why you called.
Okay, I heard your comment about United, and my husband has been with United as a pilot for over 2 decades, and he does not feel like he needs to be vaccinated, and so he is not, and he is one of those that will be terminated. And although he has a religious exemption, they said that's great, we accept it, but you are no longer needed after a certain date, basically. And there's also another instance where a man, one of the pilot who is also a friend of his, cannot medically get it, and a medical doctor has said you may not get this vaccine. However, United accepted that exemption, but said if you don't get it, you will be relieved of your duties.
So what does it mean United accepted that exemption? If he's being relieved of his duties?
Right. They accepted it under the terms of you will be given leave without pay, without insurance, without travel privileges, those kind of things. So basically, we'll accept it, but if you don't get the mandate vaccine, you will not work.
Right. So they're not accepting
it.
So it's useless. Well,
right. And there is.
Will your husband be getting a pension?
That question, I don't know. We're still not sure he's still got like 14 years with the company before, they have to retire at 65. But, so we're not sure what to do. There is a class action lawsuit with several of the pilots. So we're seeing where that goes. And of course, they're trying to keep that out of the public. And I'm just tired of being quiet. I'm sick of it.
Well, I'm on your side, as you know. If your husband wants to talk to me, you should definitely call or write me. Have him on the air. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, how do I introduce Bjorn Lomborg? I have a new way. Poor Bjorn, he has no idea what's going to happen every time he comes on my show. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my favorite Dane, ahead of Hans Christian Andersen, Niels Bohr, and Lars Ulrich, the drummer of Metallica. What do you say to that, Bjorn?
Well, I'm honored, and I'm not quite sure what else to say, but that's cool. It's good to be back.
I salute your courage in coming back on every time.
It's a pleasure.
You never know what to expect. Folks, I truly admire this man. He is a voice of reason in an age of panic with regard to what's known as climate change, what's once known as global warming. So, I have a lot of questions, but do you have a favorite topic right now that you'd like to address?
I have lots of favorite topics, but I am writing actually currently in the Wall Street Journal every week on a thing you probably didn't know about climate change. And just today I published my new piece on how much is the world actually going to be using fossil fuels, even in 20 years. So, we're being told constantly by talk show hosts and news media that the world is rapidly transitioning to renewables. But the reality is the world right now gets 81% of its energy from fossil fuels. And if every government in the world deliver on all the promises they have made on climate change in 20 years, so in 2040, that's 19 years, the International Energy Agency estimates we will be getting 73% of our energy from fossil fuels. No, we're not transitioning. We're slightly moving away from fossil fuels, but it'll still power 3/4 of our economy.
We're going to put that piece up. We started late because we didn't get, or you didn't get in touch with us, or we with you until later into this. So hold on with me, Bjorn. The article is "Want to Lock Down for the Climate? Hitting environmentalists' emission timetables would take far more than even what the pandemic forced." His work on this is extremely significant, and I have a lot of questions of my own. In the meantime, Nerve Renew is a product that I ask to advertise on the show. I almost never do, but if something has been very important to me, I think it might be to you. Any of you suffering from numbness, tingling, and the like in your extremities, namely feet and hands, I've had this in my feet much of my life. I finally developed an answer, inserts in my shoes. They were tremendously helpful for a decade. Then I read about Nerve Renew, and within a year, I threw away the inserts. That's a pretty big recommendation. So if you have this tingling, try it. 2 weeks for free and a 1-year money-back guarantee. Try NerveRenew.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Fiance? No, I can't be your fiance.
You're gonna go. You're gonna be my fiance, and you're gonna be the most amazing, fascinating, most successful man ever. We're only gonna be there for a few hours, eat dinner, and I promise we'll have the best breakup of all time.
My baby, my princess. Oh, yeah.
Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
Trending now on The Mike Gallagher Show.
I also have a view that the withdrawal of those forces would lead inevitably to the collapse of the Afghan military forces and eventually the Afghan government.
Well, you were right, and it took 11 days for the Taliban to take over Afghanistan. Have you seen some of the images coming out of Afghanistan, by the way? They're real pleasant. Bodies being hung from overpasses, people being executed in the street, an Afghan soldier led out into the street and just shot dead. The Taliban walking around with these giant whips and they're hitting women over the backs. Here's Secretary Austin also contradicting Biden and exposing Joe Biden for the bald-faced lie, the bald-faced lie he told the American people.
It's a simple question, Secretary Austin. He said no senior military leader advised him to leave a small troop presence behind. Is that true or not? Did these officer and General Miller's recommendations get to the president personally?
Their input was received by the president and considered by the president for sure. In terms of what they specifically recommended, Senator, as they just said, they're not going to provide what they recommended in confidence.
What a crap storm. What a crap show. Senator Josh Hawley put it best. Thank goodness for people like Josh Hawley and Marsha Blackburn and Dan Sullivan. The Republicans were certainly on fire yesterday in holding these failed commanders to have some sort of at least a public accountability.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
I am on with Bjorn Lomborg, who now has a weekly column, which is a great thing, in the Wall Street Journal on climate change and the impracticality, I would say. He is not necessarily, but that's the inference I draw, the immorality of so much that is going on. Founder and president of the Copenhagen Consensus Center, visiting fellow at the Hoover Institution. So, you are pointing out that even if everything is followed according to the Paris Accords by, 2030 or 2040, 71% of all energy will still come from fossil fuels. Is that correct?
Yeah, by 2040, even with the EU going much further than their Paris promises, we will still be getting 73% of our energy from fossil fuels.
So it only adds to my suspicion that, for example, this $3.5 trillion American economy crushing bill, which has so much of its money going to green energy, it is about something other than climate. Do you have a suspicion, or do you agree with me?
Oh, look, I mean, if you look at the Green New Deal, both in the U.S. and in Europe, it's a lot of other things bundled into to climate. That's absolutely true. But I think it's also this wishful thinking that somehow, look, green ought to be cheaper, so let's make it cheaper by just throwing lots of money at it. Of course, you can do that in rich countries for a while. You can't keep doing it because, taxpayers tend to get really upset when they have to keep paying. But the real point, of course, is you're not going to get most poor countries to do this. You're not going to get India or most of Africa, not even China, which is now a middle-income country, to actually spend lots of their resources on more expensive but less reliable energy. So the real way we're going to fix this is only if you can innovate the price of green energy down below fossil fuels. If we have cheap green energy, that could be nuclear, that could be fusion, it could be solar with very, very cheap batteries. If we had cheaper than fossil fuels, everyone would switch and we wouldn't need a $3.5 trillion deal.
Right. That's right. So let me throw a few questions at you that are always posed. But first, let me give you the big one, or a big one. I wrote a column a couple of months ago. There was another hysterical piece in the New York Times about climate change. And then I decided, I often do this, I read comments to articles. I think that they're very illuminating. And in the case of the New York Times, they're all New York Times subscribers, because you can't read the article if you're not a subscriber. And many of them wrote, that's why I wrote my column on this, many of them wrote that they are parents and their adult children have decided not to have children, and as much as they would like to have grandchildren, they are proud of their children for not bringing children into a world of such existential destruction as climate change. What would you say to these people?
I'd say two things. First of all, I understand why you think this way. Look, we're flooded with stories every day in mainstream media telling us the world is about to collapse and global warming is making everything worse. But it's not true, and that's the second point. Look, global warming is a problem, but it's by no means the end of the world. So just to give you a sense of proportion, the latest UN Climate Panel report from 2018 to estimate what's the total cost of global warming finds that if we do nothing about climate change for the rest of the century, nothing at all, the total cost will be equivalent to 2.6% of global GDP. That's a problem, not the end of the world. Just to give you a sense of proportion, we estimate, and this is again the UN, estimate that by the end of the century, the average person on the planet will be 450% as rich as he or she is today. Because of unmitigated global warming, we will only be 436% as rich. Yes, that's a problem. No, it's not something to get frustrated over, to think that the world is ending, or indeed to stop having children. This is simply panic, unvarnished climate alarmism.
Okay, so you have given so much thought to this. What is your theory as to what animates this panic? Not in the reader of the New York Times, but in the New York Times.
Oh, for the New York Times, I think it's simply a question of saying, if it bleeds, it leads. Catastrophic stories has always been much more fun and generate more subscription and more clicks and more interest than telling people, look, global warming is a slightly worse issue of the stuff that you already know a lot about. That's not going to get any.
All right, so what about all the professors? They're not bleeds, it leads. What animates them?
It's hard to know. I think a lot of them are focused on their own little areas where indeed global warming will often create some bigger problems. Take, for instance, sea level rise. Sea levels rising, and if you do nothing, will mean more things will get flooded. Miami is often brought up. But, there was a big story 2 years ago, also in the New York Times, about how most of southern Vietnam would be flooded. But it's not like humanity hasn't fixed this before. And, the simple point is to point to Holland. Most of Holland is way below sea level, and they live fine. And it's very cheap to adapt to. And indeed, most of southern Vietnam, which they predicted would be underwater in 2050, is already underwater. But, people don't walk around in the scuba gear. They have protected most of southern Vietnam smartly. And so the point here is we have many people who work in this are very honest and probably even terrified because they see sea levels rise and they say, but that's going to mean more flooding. No, because humans are smart creatures. We've fixed this for centuries. We know how to do this very cheaply.
Read Bjorn Lomborg every week in the Wall Street Journal. I will have him on. I do have him on regularly, but I can't have him on too often. And read his book about panic in the. What is the name of your book on panic?
It's False Alarm: How Climate Change Costs Us Trillions and Fails to Fix the Planet.
False Alarm. Bless you, Bjorn Lomborg.
Trending now on The Larry Elder Show.
Good. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I'm a green card holder, have been for 20 years.
Thank you. From where?
When I first, from South Africa.
Excellent. Thank you.
When I came into this country, I had to have blood tests to see that I didn't have syphilis, gonorrhea, HIV. I had to show all kinds of vaccinations. I had to show means to be able to support myself, et cetera, et cetera. So my point being is that the law is not being upheld as we understand it. And so I don't understand how they are circumnavigating the law again. I mean, obviously allowing these people into the country in the first place without proper vetting, etc., is one of the ways. But I mean, the laws are written for legal immigration. There are methods and ways of doing it. They say the system is broken, but it's not broken. It functions.
Greg, I am deeply in your debt. Stay where you are because I've got a couple of questions for you. But just an addendum to your magnificent remarks. The system is not broken. We totally have a system that is set up to work if the laws that are on the books will only be enforced. But that's a huge if, and they are being intentionally ignored. So 20 years you've been here, right? And as someone who's actually followed the law, share with me a couple of minutes of your experience on whether it was too easy, too hard, or just right.
I think it was just right.
Keep up with what's trending. Subscribe on YouTube and at rumble.com.
Streaming on Salem Now.
Fiance? No, I can't be your fiance.
You're gonna go. You're gonna be my fiance, and you're gonna be the most amazing, fascinating, most successful man ever. We're only gonna be there for a few hours, eat dinner, and I promise we'll have the best breakup of all time.
My baby, my princess. Oh, yeah.
Beat a little bit. Stream on your phone, tablet, or TV. Look for Salem Now in the App Store or go to salemnow.com.
The last year and a half, the power of fear, and I have no excuse. I should have. I pride myself in not being naive, but to be honest, I didn't realize it. I didn't realize how easy it is to manipulate vast numbers of otherwise decent people into indecency, irrationality, destructiveness, even meanness. Nothing works like fear. Nothing. I should have known that because I studied history all of my life, and dictators, there's always an enemy to destroy, and that enemy poses an existential threat. So when you think about it, the left's success is so based on fear The existential threat, that means threat to the existence, the very existence of human life and much other life on Earth with fossil fuels. The threat to blacks by whites. The threat to women by men. It's a world of threat. And of course, the threat of death by COVID. You can have people suppress the most cherished ideal of our society, liberty, in a split second in historical time, split second being a year, 2, 3. And that's what we are seeing. Led by places like United Airlines and Coca-Cola and Disney, and I mean, the list is so long. Nike. And the Democratic Party relying on it. People not having children because of this fear. I mean, they have been scared. And you know why? Because they don't read Bjorn Lomborg. They don't read him. He's irrefutable. All he does is bring data. Places are going to sink because of rising seas. It's what they said about the Maldives, where I've been twice. Their coastline is actually expanded. Does one New York Times reader know that? Je le doute. I doubt it. Do a good thing right now. Got to do good things in life. Help the fighters. Click on the ADF, Alliance Defending Freedom banner on my website and make a contribution. See you tomorrow.